This video is to get you familiar with how to tally your product and process scores across a specific number of trials so that you can use the Excel program and its capacity to tally across rows. Each row here, you'll notice in the student ID column, represents a student, and accordingly their grades or their performance scores in product and process across 5 trials in this case. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you can insert the data across in rows. When you set it up, you want to make sure you have keys and you label your trials. So in this case, you have the same thing repeated across 5 times, and you can just use the copy and paste function to get your rows set up across however many trials before you enter any of your data. You'll also notice up here that 1 equals yes, the behavior is present or the cue is evident, and 0 equals no, which enables you to tally all the behaviors present across the trials. Another important feature is to consider having your cues labeled and described at the bottom of your data set, and this can be moved around as you have more students or participants by just cutting and pasting below. You have the option to call your cues C1, C2 and have a code or a key at the bottom, or in the case of this example, you can just use small words or phrases, small phrases and words to specify what those characteristics are, what the cues are labeled as. You'll also want to associate the process scores with the cues that are present or not for each trial. And this can serve an important piece of feedback to your students so that they can see where the product is breaking down. So for example, in this case, the person didn't hit the target, and perhaps it's because they didn't have a spin on the ball and their ball to the target wasn't quite right. So you match the zeros with the product score. Alright, so if you take a look at this dummy row, and remember we want to have perfect scores across the first row, which is a fictitious perfect student, and you want to ensure you have all of the process scores for each trial. So because I have the product score right after the process, you have to put them in brackets. Otherwise you could just sum across and include B4 semicolon AB4, and it would sum all of those scores in a very short formula. But in this case, we're capturing all of the process characteristics in 5 trials and typing it up here in this bar. So you would actually click on here and do your typing, adding on however many trials, if you will. And then of course you want to click your green check mark to initially get that first dummy row the way you want it, and it should be at 5 out of 5 in this case. And I've already dragged this down, but you drag it all down like so, and all of your columns will be, or sorry, all of your rows will be summed for each student. Then you do the same thing for the product score. So you'll notice that I typed equals, parenthesis, and then I clicked on each of the pass on target columns, and that is represented here. Same idea, you drag down and wait and calculate the scores for each student. Yeah, you might recall how we scores for the fitness assessment, and I'll just do this from scratch here, show you the formula. Here you type equals, parenthesis, you choose the cell where your data is that you want it, so that's what we call the raw score. Multiply it by the weighted score, in this case 20, and divide it by the highest possible score, in this case 25. Click and drag. And the last step in the assignment is to change this column to red. So you go ahead and do that.